Okay, I call to order the meeting of the mayor and council. Regular meeting, February 8th, Borough of River Edge. I ask in a moment if we could stand for a moment of silent reflection for all those who have passed since our last meeting, for those who have fallen sick due to COVID, for their families, and for all those who you might be holding in your own heart. And then we'll have the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one
nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
All right, statement of compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. In accordance with Open Public Meeting Law, PL 1975, Chapter 231, notice requirements for this meeting have been set forth in a resolution adopted by the Municipal Council at its meeting of January 4, 2021. Pursuant to a state of emergency and the public health emergency as ordered in Executive Orders numbers 103, 104, the borough will hold its scheduled meetings virtually until further notice. Further notification of this compliance was published in the Record and the Ridgewood News on January 6th, 2021, notifying the public that until further notice, all future meetings will not have members of the public physically present. But the public will have an opportunity, excuse me for that, I had left my phone on. But the public will have the opportunity to ask questions to the mayor and council virtually by either raising their hands if they're on an electronic device that allows that, or *9 if they're on a phone. And that the public who wish to participate in the meeting may secure access information shown on the borough's website. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Bastide,
Here.
I think maybe you're both muted.
Go ahead. Try one more time. Stephanie, Councilman Kanigo, she said.
Here.
thank you. Councilman Godier,
You're muted.
I think Joe said yes.
okay, I just got mouthful. Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Here.
Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Okay, let the record reflect that Mayor Papaleo, Borough Attorney Thomas Sarlo, Borough Administrator Lizette Portella are all
Portella.
present.
Okay, very good. I don't know, is Mr. Sarlo currently here? Because he said he'd be a little bit late. Mr. Sarlo asked for our indulgence. He will be a little bit late, so we will be moving a couple of non-legal matters to the beginning of the agenda without objection. Is there objection? Hearing none, we will be moving non-legal matters to the beginning of the agenda. Okay, the first thing we need is if I could have Councilman Kanigo move and Council President Kanigo and Councilwoman of Bastide move in second the approval of the minutes of the mayor and council regular meeting of January 25th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Bastide,
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo,
Yes.
Councilman Godier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Okay, the first thing, what we're going to do without objection is we're going to move one of the new business items, which is Scout Troop, Girl Scout Troop 5862, presentation of Civil Award to this moment. And then we will, and I'd like to give it just a little few more moments because last time we needed it for recognition of Little League 11U championship team. And then we'll do proclamation for the month of February. And then we'll open the public on any item on the agenda. Is there objection?
No objection.
Hearing none. At Councilwoman Bastide's request, we're going to ask for Caitlin Tushman and Claire Bastide from Girl Scout Troop 5862 presentation of their Silver Award Project. Councilwoman Bastide, I'm going to surrender the meeting to you to facilitate this.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to step off the dais for a moment and act as an advisor to Girl Scout Troop 5862, to these two young women who have researched a Silver Award project and are here tonight as part of that project to inform the mayor and council of their plans. So I see they're both panelists. Thank you, Councilwoman Kaufman. So girls, take it away. You have to unmute yourselves, girls.
Hello, I'm Caitlin,
And I'm Claire.
and we're from Troop 5862.
As you may know, we are currently working on our Silver Award project to help make the world a better place. For our project, we are hoping to make it easier for everyone in Rivers to find houses. Some people's houses do not meet the requirements for house numbering. This can make it difficult for many people, such as mailmen, mailwomen, and first responders to find houses.
Sorry, just a minute. These are some of the guidelines to a correct house number that was given to us by Mr. Carroll. The address must be within 5 feet of the main entrance facing the street. The numbers must be 3 inches in height and of contrasting color in the building so that it can be easily seen from the street. And the address must be shown in numbers. Lettering is not acceptable. An example of a house that does not meet the requirements would be a number written in cursive words, which would make it difficult to read, and is written in the corner of the house, which would make it difficult to see, and the number would not be facing the street or by an entryway. It would be hard to find.
This is an example of a house that does meet the requirements. It is written in number form. It is visible in the front of the house. It is in contrasting colors of the house, making it very easy to see.
This is what we can do to help. We spoke to Mr. Carroll earlier on about what we can do to fix this issue.
Mr. Carroll explained to us the steps we need to do in order to accomplish our goal.
We wanted to start off by walking around our town looking for addresses that do not meet the requirements.
We will walk to Manchester through Midland in between 5th and Elm and list the houses that have the requirements, house numbers, and the houses that do not.
That's it for our presentation. If you have any questions, we encourage you to ask them.
Well, first of all, I think it's absolutely wonderful that you girls are coming up with this this project for your Silver Award, I believe it is. So this is just wonderful. Councilwoman Bastide, do you want to mediate or moderate questions from the council?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. And I would just add that the collection of all of that data will be turned over to Neil Carroll and the building department for outreach to residents. So if there are any questions for either Caitlin or Claire, they would be happy to answer them. If not, they are eager to get started on their project, which they need to complete 40 hours. So they're about 8 or 9 hours into their project with their preparation, so they have a lot of work in front of them. So if there are no questions,
Councilwoman,
yes, Joe.
actually, I would just like to thank both of them for their service to the town.
Thank you.
I have a question, Councilwoman Bastide,
Sure.
to either of them. How many houses were deficient? Can they share with the council how many were correct and how many were not?
Well, we didn't go around town yet. We wanted to share our plan with you guys before we did that. So we will be getting started in the next week or so.
And I'm
Fantastic.
sure they would be happy to come back at the conclusion of their project and share the data with the council.
That'll be great.
Right. If there are no other questions, I want to thank Caitlin Tershman and Claire Bustede for coming to the meeting and sharing your project, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you to the. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, girls.
Okay, so we have our Little League U11 team championships. We're very, very proud of them. I forget which member of council brought this to the attention of the council.
It was
Mr.
me,
Mem-
Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Bastide had initially received the request, but it was moved to me once I got assigned the rec commission.
Do you wish to read the names of the awardees after I read the award?
Sure, my pleasure.
Do you have the list of the names?
I do.
Very good. So we're very honored to recognize a certificate of recognition. So I'll give you a quick look at it. There we go. So a certificate of recognition for our Little League U11 team. And so let me read this certificate, leaving out the name, and then we will have Councilwoman Montesano Cohen go through it with by names, and we will recognize them with applause at the end. And then I'll call on the coach or coaches if they'd like to say a word or two. All right, certificate of recognition. The mayor and council of the Borough of River Edge are proud to present the certificate of award to, the name to be filled in a moment, in recognition of the Little League U11 team for winning the 2020 Fall NEBAS Championship. Every member of council's name is printed on it, and then my signature is upon it. So we call upon Councilwoman Montesano Cohen to name the recognees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to name these fabulous kids, and they are John Blackman, Jeffrey Zhang, Charles Lopresti, Connor Gassman, Brendan Comart, Ian Rosick, Luca Clame, Justin Kim, Chris Nair, and Nico Petrosino. And the coaches are Kevin Lopresti and Jim Blackman.
Round of applause. Congratulations. So I call on coaches Kevin Lopresti and Jim Blackman. Coaches, would you like to say a few words about this achievement?
Yeah. I just want to say that once again, guys, very proud of you. We got to a point in the year where we had to win every game. We did that. We got another championship, so very proud of you. And we're hoping to get back pretty soon once the snow melts and practicing again. Good job, guys.
Wonderful. And Coach Blackman, would you like to say a few words or not? You're not obligated to.
Coach Blackman can hear everything. He can't see anything, or I'm not sure, but I don't know if he's here right now.
Councilwoman Kaufman, can you see whether Coach Blackman is present?
I don't see him.
All right. Well, I just want to say again to our boys, a great job. We're very proud of our River Edge athletes. This is another example of making every effort towards excellence. Would any member of council like to say anything before we wish them well?
Mr. Mayor, just wanted to congratulate these boys. I know them all well. Guys, you did a great job yet again. Keep making us proud. Keep winning championships. And look forward to seeing you on the field in the spring.
All right. So we have one last proclamation to make. It's a proclamation for Black History Month. And I know all of our students have been having this in their classrooms. It is a part of the public school curriculum. I know that I'm doing it in my classroom. So proclamation, whereas Black History Month is celebrated every February in the recognition of achievement by Black Americans and all peoples of African descent in the United States. And whereas the historian and author Dr. Carter G. Woodson created Negro History Week in 1926 to encourage the study of Black life and history, particularly in the nation's public schools. And the tradition was expanded in 1976 to Black History Month, whereas many diverse ethnic and racial groups have all played a vital and positive integral part and contribution to the proclamation of Americans' unique social, cultural, scientific, political, and economic character. And whereas the contributions to science, technology, business, arts, and culture, innovation by Black Americans and African Americans have been essential to the progress of our nation. Whereas the Borough of River Edge is desirous of making a bold statement to honor and celebrate the achievement of our African American citizenry, determines that our municipality should communicate this desire by way of an official declaration for the month of February. Whereas the Borough of River Edge further promotes appropriate ceremonies and programs during this month of February to enunciate Black history. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Thomas Papaleo, Mayor of the Borough of River Edge, on behalf of the council, do proclaim February 2021 as Black History Month. Congratulations. Let us all celebrate the achievements and the contributions of Black Americans, African Americans to our country. All right. At this point, and you're welcome to stay, but if any of our honorees would like to go, and they may, because now we're going to be entering into the business of the borough, which you're welcome to stay and see, but you may not find all that interesting. All right. Let's now, first of all, Ms. Kaufman, is Mr. Sarlo here yet?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, at this point, Miss Apratella, would you call Mr. Sarlo and ascertain his ETA? All right, we're going to open to comments on any item of the agenda. Could I have Councilman Gaudier move and Councilwoman Kaufman second?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Bastoud,
Yes.
Councilman Domingo,
Yes.
Gaudier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Is that everybody?
That's everybody.
All right, we are open to the public. So any member of the public who would like to be recognized, please either raise your hand in the chat or hit *9. Councilwoman Kaufman, I'm going to turn this over for you to moderate. But of course, I will be here to handle any questions that might come.
Okay, 1 second. We have a question from Sebastian. And Sebastian, I've allowed you to talk.
Hi, thank you for taking my, hello, thank you.
Sebastian,
here.
you need to give us your name, full name and address for the record.
Sebastian Moscarella, 781 5th Avenue in River
You are
Edge.
recognized.
Thank you. So I have not joined these meetings before. This is my first. I had to look at the agenda beforehand. And I was a little taken aback that I did not see anything about the school reopenings. I've been joining the Board of Ed meetings pretty
Sebastian,
regularly.
I have to stop you there. We will open for any topic that you like that comes after the payment of the bills. But we are open now by law only on items on the agenda. So we absolutely would want to hear what you want to say, but the procedure is, the law is that we are open on items of the agenda. And then when we finish all the business of the town, new items can absolutely be brought up, and I hope you'll stay. Hopefully it will not be long. It hasn't in the past, but only items on the agenda.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome, Sebastian. I look forward to speaking with you later. Michelle, anyone else?
If anyone else has a question, raise your hand. and I will allow you to speak. I do not see any other questions.
All right then. So we are going to move to appointments and personnel changes. Could I have a motion from Councilwoman Montesano Cohen and a second from Councilwoman Kinsella to approve the salary change for John Mouthy, part-time police dispatcher, an hourly rate of 20, hold on.
Please close public
Oh,
comments.
forgive me. Could I have a motion from those two people, actually, to close to the public on any item on the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please. Thank you. The clerk was reminding me I was forgetting the process.
Councilwoman Bastu,
Yes.
Councilman Kaniga,
Sorry.
Councilman Day.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Councilman Goyer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman,
yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Okay, we are now closed to the public on items of the agenda. Of course, we will open again to the public on any item or issue that the public wishes to bring before the council. So at this point, could I have Councilwoman Indira move, Councilwoman Montesano Cohen second, to approve the salary change for John Mouthy, part-time police dispatcher, at an hourly rate of $22.82 to a full-time at an annual salary of $50,000 effective January 8th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Bastu,
Yes.
Councilman Kaniga,
Yes.
Councilman Goyer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Okay, item number 9, monthly reports. We have on record Historic Commission, which is available to the public upon demand. Item 10, first reading an ordinance to amend Chapter 65 of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of River Edge, entitled Officers and Employees. If I could have our BA, Ms. Apertella, just for the public edification, explain the purpose of this ordinance and what it hopes to achieve.
Yes, this ordinance is to codify the position of tax collector. It is a statutory position and the ordinance references the statutes. However, this position is an employee of the borough and it must be part of our code. So it's part of the updating of the borough code.
Okay, so we're correcting an absence in our code and bringing ourselves up to specs. So could I have Councilwoman Kaufman move and Councilman Gaudier second the first reading, which is not open to the public, second reading.
Second.
I'm not sure. Did we get a motion and second from Councilman Gaudier and Councilwoman Kaufman?
Yes.
Yes.
We did. So it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Bastu,
Yes.
Councilman Kaniga,
Yes.
Councilman Goyer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Okay, now we move to item number 11 on the agenda, second reading and hearing on ordinances. This does open to the public. I will be asking in a moment for a motion from Councilwoman Bastide and a second from Council President Canigo. Ordinance 21-4, an ordinance to amend Chapter 206 of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of River Edge, entitlement fees.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Bastu,
Yes.
Councilman Kaniga,
Yes.
Councilman Goyer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Okay, before we ask the public for any comment or questions, if our BA could please place this in some sort of setting, context, so that the public will understand what we're doing here.
Yes, this ordinance is to update the code to reflect that $75 is the amount being charged for police application fees, and is to make it effective, and that way the auditor can confirm since we are currently in the process.
Very good. Any member of the public who would like to ask a question or make a comment about ordinance 21-4, please feel free to raise your hand in the chat or hit *9 and Councilwoman Kaufman will recognize you. Are we okay?
Well, Tom Sorrell was on, but I was looking for something over here.
Okay. I assume we have no one at this point,
Correct.
Council? All right, so could I have Councilwoman Montesano Cohen move, and could I have Councilwoman Kaufman second to close to the public?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll and call, please.
Councilwoman Bastido?
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo?
Yes.
Councilman Godier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen?
Yes.
Okay, could I have a motion and second, motion from Councilwoman Kinsella and a second from Council President Kanigo for adoption?
So moved?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Bastido?
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo?
Yes.
Councilman Godier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen?
Yes.
Okay, so that passes unanimously. So we have resolutions 21-72 through 21-80. Does any member of council wish to call out for a separate vote? Any of those resolutions?
I would like to separate out 2176.
2176 will be separated out. Let us move 2172 through 2175 and 2177 through 2180 by unanimous consent. Could I have a motion from Councilwoman Bastido and a second from Councilman Gaudier?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Bastido?
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo?
Yes.
Councilman Godier?
Joe?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen?
Yes.
Okay, we now have 21-76. Could I have a motion to move it and then a motion to second? And then if there is debate, according to Robert's rule, debate would occur before a roll call. So could I have a motion to move 2176?
I'll move 2176.
It has been moved. Can I have a second? Seeing no second, 2176 dies, and we move on to 21-81. Could I have Councilwoman Kaufman move 21-81, payment of the bills?
Am I allowed to make a motion to renew my move to amend the resolution 21?
If you would like to do that, I will ask Mr. Sarlo for his opinion once we do payment of the bills.
Oh, okay. Okay, 1 second. At a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on February 8, 2021. Be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of River Edge approve the following expenditures. Current account, $8,381,272.35. Grant account, $179. Animal control account, $159.60. Trust other account, $160. Unemployment trust account, $14,731.81. Developers escrow account, $250. Self-insurance account, $14,162.64. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Steve,
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo,
Yes.
Councilman Godier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Sarlo, can a resolution be brought to the floor now, or must we return to closed session and rice Mr. Carroll?
Yeah, so Mayor, the motion that was listed for today was based on the closed session and discussion based on the ordinance after the mayor and council heard the fire committee's recommendations. The proposed resolution was based on what was decided at the last meeting. However, because that decision is not being memorialized, or the resolution memorialized that decision tonight has failed, we are in a little bit of a quandary that we need to make a decision based on the committee. So if there's going to be discussion, I would recommend no discussion based on the facts or what was discussed in closed session. That's a personnel matter, and then Mr. Carroll would need to be riced. However, if there is a alternative motion to amend the resolution for another alternative period of suspension or what have you, I would allow that, but we can't have debate on it. We would just need to take a roll call vote on that, up or down. If we have discussion based on the merits of this situation or the facts of the situation, we got to go back into closed session and we have to rice it. But if everyone is going to go off of memory and what they discussed and what was the fire and what they reviewed in the fire committee's meeting, I don't have a issue, again, because we're in a quandary that the motion with a resolution adopting, memorializing the findings of the previous meeting has now failed. We almost go back to step one. So yes, I will allow a motion to amend that resolution, but I can't allow discussion on the merits of it. We just need an up and down roll call vote on that.
So I will allow Councilwoman Kaufman to make a motion, but I will remind everyone not to opine or to offer commentary on their vote.
So I make a motion to amend the resolution in order to suspend Mr. Carroll until August 1st.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilwoman Kaufman and a second by Council President Kanigo. So I would remind you again, no opining, no commentary, no debate. This is a straight up and down vote. Roll call.
Councilwoman Steve,
No.
Councilman Kamigo,
Yes.
Councilman Godier,
No.
I'm sorry, Councilman Godier, that was garbled. I will need you to say it again.
No.
No.
okay, Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cohen.
Yes.
So this passed with a 4 out of 6, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? All right, so that matter is closed. So now we move to item number 14 for discussion, a concept drawing Continental Avenue.
Should I share
I
my
would-
screen? Sorry, should I share my screen with the picture for that?
Unless Mr. Costa wants to. Mr. Costa, do you want to present the concept drawing? Mr. Costa, you're muted. No, you're not muted in the system, but I don't know if your mic is activated. The only reason, Michelle, I didn't have you do that is because he might need to manipulate it. And if you present it, he can't manipulate it.
Okay. Jason had sent it to
Yep.
me. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, Mr. Costa, can you hear us? Ms. Costa, I think you need to leave and come back and we will wait for you. Let's try a few of the mics. Officer Diamond, can you tell us, can you unmute yourself to make sure that you're able to speak?
Can you hear me?
Good. Ms. Stewart, can you unmute yourself to make sure we can hear you?
Hello.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, and very good. So, Mr. Costa, Michelle can put up the diagram, the presentation, but I don't know if you'll need to manipulate it. So do you wish to bring it up or should she?
Either way, however you want me to do it, I'll try my best. If you want to.
Well,
I
which
can
would
try
be easy. All right, let's see if he can do it, Michelle. That way, as he speaks to it, he can manipulate it. And we see your computer screen.
We have nothing.
No, I see.
Okay. Are we there?
I saw you open file. I see it buffering. We're waiting.
Did it come in yet or no?
No.
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 All right.
All right, so Michelle will present and we'll do
All
our
right.
best.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. So you need to stop presenting and
Here we go.
Councilwoman.
Here we go.
All right, Mr. Costa, why don't you take us away?
Okay, so at the last meeting, the mayor and council asked us to meet with the acting police chiefs, which we did out in the field. We went over the location back and forth, went over whether to move it back to the original position in the center or whether to keep it closer towards the ambulance corps or towards Elm Street. At the end of the discussion, the chiefs were going to go back to discuss it amongst themselves. I know Patrick Diamond is on tonight. I don't believe he was present at that meeting. I'm trying to think if you were, Pat, or not. I don't remember.
I was.
You were, right?
Yes.
You were. Okay, I apologize. And then a discussion took place amongst the police department. And I received a phone call that evening to say, just leave it at the position that's in front of the council tonight. Pat, jump in if any moment, if that's changed between that meeting and today. But that's the last conversation I had with the two chiefs.
Officer Diamond, Mr. Costa is waiting for you to comment.
That is correct, sir. I was just looking up. That is correct that we met on site and the two acting lieutenants as a police chief recommended this design in front of everyone tonight.
Right.
No changes.
Mayor, the only thing that we were going to do and the only request was where we're showing the bump outs and narrowing the road down where the actual crosswalk is going to be.
Yes.
We're going to actually lay that out in the field to make sure that an ambulance can make that swing safely.
Okay.
We had the snow last week, so we didn't get a chance to do that. I'll try to get it out there before the end of this week. and then set it up with the ambulance corps to make sure that that maneuver can take place. If it can't, we're gonna have to shift the crosswalk westerly towards Fifth Avenue in that direction, just in case he can't change it. We're pretty confident that they can make that swing, but we're gonna
Okay.
stake it out in the field to just make absolutely sure that they can make that maneuver safely.
Okay. So, Mr. Costa, are you waiting for us to give basically an approval for this?
If you,
Is that?
yes, if you say thumbs up, everybody's happy with this, then we can finish the plans up, get them down to DOT, get it out to bid, and try to construct this thing as soon as school is out in mid-June, and then try to get it done over the summer, and then try to have the least impact, obviously, to the community. That's the goal. But again, it's up to the council if they so desire, and yourself.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, so I was going to come to you first, Council President, and then Councilwoman Bastide, and so on. So why don't we begin, Mr. President? What are your thoughts?
Mr. Mayor, we met with the Traffic and Safety Committee last week. They reviewed these drawings. They had a couple of concerns, and I wanted to give Mr. Costa an opportunity to speak to it. First of all, in the small section in front of the ambulance corps building, there is no striping for no parking, and they would like some striping added there if possible and legal.
No problem.
Okay. And secondly, they had concerns about the bump outs themselves and the danger that it might pose to motorists along the roadway.
Okay. Again, the intent here is to narrow the roadway and then narrow the crosswalk to make it safer. And I know that was a concern. What we plan on doing is putting in some reflectors on both sides coming into them, and certainly we'll have there'll be the flashing beacons there also for the crosswalk. But in my opinion, I think it's going to be safer. Again, we could do it with striping. I think you're better off doing it with hardscape, how we're proposing it. But again, it's up to the council. I've seen these things. They work. It's in Main Street in Fort Lee. That was one of the first ones. That was a mid-block. It works fine. There's been no issues. And again, I think the whole idea behind this is to slow the traffic coming back and forth on Continental. Because again, we were out there, President Canego, the mayor, council people, the police, people have a tendency to speed on this roadway. And again, the sad reality is this roadway cuts the park in half. So this, in my opinion, is the best way to try to address that situation. And again, a lot of people cross back and forth. We all witnessed it when we were there numerous times, and that's not going to change. And I think for the benefit of the pedestrians, I think this is going to work, and it's not going to be a danger as far as the motorists. We'll stripe her properly, and the key is to get everybody to slow down.
I agree completely. And in reviewing this drawing with you at the site, when we all met with the police and Shade Tree and many of the stakeholders, we watched as pedestrian after bicyclist after pedestrian crossed exactly at that location instead of walking down to the current crosswalk at Elm Avenue. And it makes sense. If we had placed it in the alternative middle ground, I guess, directly below where it says Veterans Memorial Park, then we would have also had to bisect that lawn with additional paths, and the reality would have been that people would have still used the original paths and crossed at the original spot. So I think this is the best that we can do with what we have there, and I think you've done a great job with this drawing. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Councilwoman Bastide, comments, questions?
I just echo what Council President Kenigo has said. I think that a lot of hard work has gone in to come up with what I think this is the best plan for that space, and it will do just that. slow the traffic and provide a safer passage for where people have crossed for the last 50 years. So thanks everybody for making this come to fruition. I'm pleased with it.
Thank you.
Councilman Gordier.
I also echo Councilman Kanigo's sentiments, and I'd like to thank all the stakeholders who have put many hours in on this project, and I think this is a worthwhile project, and I think it's going to serve the community well.
Okay. Councilwoman Kaufman.
I would just echo what everyone else has said. Thank you, everybody.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen.
Yeah, I echo my council members. I also think that it will normalize a practice that has been going on and will help reduce the traffic, which is clear just by walking. So I think it's going to serve the community well. I also agree with everyone's, all the work that has gone into this.
Okay. Councilwoman Kinsella.
I would like to also echo my fellow council members and appreciate everyone's input on this. And I am definitely one of those guilty individuals who have crossed in between all the time. So I know.
All right.
And Mayor,
All right,
Mayor, here's the good news.
Yes.
Show me the money. The state is giving us the money, $400,000 worth of it. So that's an important aspect too. We don't want to lose that grant. So like Jerry Maguire said, Cooper Gooding Jr., show me the money. So if everybody says yes, let's go build it and let's get the money from the state.
All right, just before, I know that we have Ms. Stewart here from Shade Tree. I wanted to give her an opportunity to speak before you left, but I agree that I think this is the best plan so far. Ms. Stewart.
Yes, I think Shade Tree in our meeting, we agreed this plan is great. We were fine with it. I think the only question is if you need a any planting things from us, like tree numbers, shrub numbers, prices.
Whatever, Liz, whatever you want to give us. I mean, we always put money in there for you guys. So obviously we'll do the same as far as replanting anything that we lose and then replant on the street.
Okay, so I'll talk to
The limits of the
Jason.
Project. Yeah,
All right.
just give us a call, tell us what species you want and we'll put it in.
Okay, and then I think there was a question with the ash tree that was going to be, there are 3 trees slated to be removed because of that big construction across the street, that they would be affected. But the ash tree possibly could be saved. That's one ash tree that has not gotten emerald ash borer, and we have been treating it. So if it can be saved, of course, we'd be happy. If not, then it's part of the project.
And if need be, then we'll certainly replace it.
Okay.
We're not going to move it, Liz. We're not moving.
Come on. We can do it.
No, we're not moving.
We're not moving trees.
Ms. Apatella, do we need an official motion and a second and a roll call, or is it sufficient what we've done so far?
I believe consensus is sufficient. That way, Mr. Costa could reach out to the DOT and get the blessing from the state.
Okay, Mr. Costa, we are in all agreement. Thank you for everything and for your staff that are here tonight. Thank you, Officer Diamond. And if you wish to stay, feel free to do so. But we have old business, new business, and then we are opening to the public. All right, so is there any old or new business that any member of council would like to bring forth? I'm going to bring a bit of old business. One of the things that I've had several conversations with Mr. Costa, not Mr. Costa, Mr. Sarlo about many different things over the week. And one of the things that has become apparent is that we created the COVID committee to address issues that were of such urgency that we could not wait to the next council meeting back in March. And the committee has served very, very well. But we're at a point now where the issues that we're dealing with do not need that sort of urgent or expedited resolution. So I would recommend to the council that we return to it, the authority that it belongs to. And I would recommend a motion second to dissolve the COVID committee, well done, but dissolve. And then if, after the motion and second, if there is debate to keep it, then we would discuss that debate before we take a roll call. Is there a motion to dissolve?
I would like to make that motion, Mayor.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
It has been moved and seconded. It is now open for debate. Does the council wish to thank and dissolve the COVID committee and return the authority it has invested in the committee back to the council?
Mr.
Is there
Mayor,
debate?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
not so much debate. I would just say this. The COVID pandemic is still in effect, and perhaps there may still be need for a COVID committee. So perhaps we can revisit the scope of the COVID committee and what it needs to address, because otherwise, if something arises, then we're going to have to call an emergency meeting of the council, and that proves to be a little difficult. I have no problem whatsoever with the concept of, in everyday matters, even dealing with COVID, anything that can wait the 2 weeks should wait the 2 weeks and be brought before the council. However, when there are issues that have a temporal component in nature, then perhaps the ability for a committee to swiftly meet an outbreak of COVID in Borough Hall that might require changes in the way the personnel is staffed, or in the DPW or in other departments, that may necessitate a COVID committee, and that's why it was put in place in the first place. So
Yes,
I'm
I
just-
believe, I agree with you, Council President, but I believe that we have in the past done a phone call poll for those sort of things. I
I
don't
have no
see this
objection.
happen. Yeah, I think we can do a phone call poll if something needs to be resolved quickly. That way it's still the council's decision. As a member of the COVID committee, I just think that this is a better process. But I totally understand your point of view, and anyone else, any other opinion?
I support
Roll call.
dissolving the committee as well.
Okay, good. Any other comment or debate? All right, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Bastu,
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo,
Yes.
Councilman Godier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hoffman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cully.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other new or old business that the council wishes to address? Hearing none, could I have a motion from, let's see, Councilwoman Montesano Cohen with a second from Councilman Kaufman to open to the public on any matter that the public wishes to address?
So moved.
Second. So if anyone
call,
has a
please.
question, sorry.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Bastu,
Yes.
Kamigo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Godier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cully.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I hope Sebastian's still here. I hope we didn't try his patience. If he is, would you please give him priority?
Oh, shoot. 1 second. Okay, Sebastian, you can speak, and
Thank you.
Brian will get to you next.
Sebastian, you
Mayor.
have to state your full name again and your address.
Sebastian Muscarella, 781 Fifth Avenue.
Okay, go ahead. And thank
I
you for
was-
waiting.
No problem. It was great hearing the work that's getting done in Continental. For what it's worth, I'd very much love to see a speed bump put on Fifth Avenue, but that's a matter for another time.
Okay.
But in any case, I'm not here on behalf of the River Edge parents, but I am here definitely in concert with a number of River Edge parents that are dealing with the crisis of the lack of in-person learning at Roosevelt and Cherry Hill. I myself, along with a number of other parents, have been to the Board of Ed meetings, trying to get some answers as to why we have not expanded in-person learning in town. And what we're hearing is a lot of talk, things that don't seem to be backed up by scientific data nor backed by Governor Murphy's executive orders. Yet our kids are still home. There's been small improvements. I mean, it was great to see the K-1 kids get in recently on a more regular basis, but we're still lacking from 2 through 6. So the reason I'm really here is this seems to be another forum for me to express my opinion, and there might be some other parents on as well, doing anything we can to make our voices heard and see if there's any way we can impact a decision to end this, what I would honestly call, to not mince words, a disaster for our children that are ongoing, sitting home virtually right now. I just to add on to that, I mean, this is a town that prides itself on community, that prides itself on education and its schools. This is a town that I moved to a second time for those reasons. And this is a town that I'm willing to leave because of those reasons, which is really, really shameful. And I don't want to see it go that way. So again, I just imploring this council, Mr. Mayor, anything you can do to help push this agenda for the parents that are looking for in-person learning.
Okay, so there are so many levels we could deal with this, but we're going to deal first, if you don't mind, Mr. Mascarella, with it from a legal point of view. And I'm going to ask our borough attorney to speak to this. I'm just going to give a brief comment before he speaks to it. The council has no authority over the school district. We have no action to take. But they do reach out to us, as yourself does. I'm going to let Mr. Sarlo speak a little bit, and then I'm going to talk to you about perhaps, if you want, some of the conversations I've had. Mr. Sarlo, if you could address the legal aspect of this.
Yeah, Mayor, you answered the question. The borough has no jurisdiction over Board of Education matters. It's solely within the Board of Education as to when they're going to open up the schools or anything with the education in town. So it is frustrating, but unfortunately, this mayor and council has no authority with regard to those issues. As you indicated, you do have an open line of communication with them, and you certainly can relay the concerns that you're hearing from your constituents to them with regard to the concerns of the pandemic. But you don't have authority, unfortunately.
Mr. Mascarella, is there something else you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, if the parents were to take legal action, would that be against them? It sounds like it would be against the Board of Ed versus the town itself. Is that right?
It would be. If you chose to take an action, there is no action to take against us. The only interaction that the borough has in this regard is the school nurses and the school superintendent does have conversations with our health officer, and only our health, not our Board of Health. And our health officer offers only information and recommendations based on the county and state policy, not his private opinion. But it's up to the board to decide whether they wish to embrace or to reject those recommendations. Mr. Sarlo, did I speak correctly to that issue?
Yes, Mayor. I have nothing to add based on what you said.
Mayor, can I
One second, Mr. Gordier, hold on a second, Councilman, just mute yourself for a second, because we're getting a lot of background. Joe, if you can speak. Great. Mr. Mascarella, is there something else you want to say before Councilman Gordier speaks?
No, go ahead.
Okay, Councilman Gordier.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention, as liaison to the health department, I spoke to the health officer today, and he reiterated that he has no jurisdiction over the schools, and it's ultimately the decision of the superintendent. Thank you.
That's helpful. Thank you.
So, Sebastian, is there a comment you want to make, another question of me or anyone on the council or our borough attorney in regards to where we are with this?
No, thank you for listening to me and giving me the information you have tonight. We'll continue to press the Board of Ed. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm sorry we couldn't do more for you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the issue?
There are two other people with their hands raised. Brian Yandel, I'm going to move him over next. Brian, you have something?
Brian,
Hi, can
state
you
your
guys hear
full
me?
name and address, please.
At Brian Yandel, 238 Monroe Avenue.
You are recognized.
Okay. Mayor, I had sent you an email yesterday. I don't know if you had a chance to review it. It was basically aimed at the now defunct COVID committee, so I'm going to move along here. Essentially, I'd like to discuss the guidelines that have been set forth by the COVID committee with regard to the return to play sports. The guidance which appears under the Recreation Department link indicates that all players in all sports, soccer, basketball, adult or children's, softball and baseball, will be required to wear masks both while they're on the sidelines and while they are participating in the sport. A blanket statement. Masks while participating during the game is not mandated by the state. In fact, the New Jersey Department of Health issued guidance in the past week that requires masks for coaches, parents, and players while they are participating on the bench, coaching, whatever, but does not require them while participating in high-intensity aerobic or anaerobic activities, which by definition would be soccer, basketball, things like that. I've reached out to other towns and also representatives on the state level of the New Jersey Recreation and Parks Association, and am yet to find one that is requiring masks while playing. If a parent wants their child to wear one, that's great. That's their right. I witnessed town-run basketball clinics in the fall. Masks were not required. Some kids wore them, some didn't. Same thing with summer and fall basketball. The leagues and teams have the ability to have COVID ambassadors, a parent, a volunteer who temperature checks, ensures social distancing, things like that. My daughter's Blackhawk soccer team that you were all kind enough to acknowledge at the last council meeting had a great ambassador. Instead, you've gone with wear a mask or find somewhere else to play. That doesn't sound like reasonable, responsible government. And I'd like more details on where this came from. There's a lot of angry people over this who are willing to find another place to play, and we really shouldn't have to.
Okay, I'm going to hand this off to Council President Kanigo.
Mr. Mayor, before I read my statement, perhaps we should hear from other individuals who have the same issues so we can kind of flesh everything out. And then I'll read my statement, which is lengthy and addresses everything Mr. Yandel just brought up.
So there are 4 other people with their hands raised. Should I just move them all over?
Would you please?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to, because we're in a virtual, I'm going to recognize you as you appear on the screen. So there is no reason other than, I think it's Laura Fifth-Fault. Laura, if you'd like to speak to this issue, please state your name and address and feel free to do so.
Yeah, I was actually, Lauren Default, 159 Greenway Terrace. I also have a daughter on Blackhawks and completely agree with Mr. Yandel's statement. However, my comment is back to the Board of Ed. So I don't know if there's other parents on who would like to speak to Blackhawks, but I can also back up Mr. Yandel. So I will come back if needed.
All right, sounds good. We're going to leave you there. Mr. Artori, would you like to address this issue? If you'd like to talk about the Board of Education, that will have to wait at this point.
No, I actually joined for this issue. So this is Anthony. Thank you, Mayor. This is Anthony Arturi, 171 Manning Avenue. I agree with what Mr. Yandel said. Thank you, by the way, for providing us this form. So I sent a pretty detailed communication yesterday to the council. Hope they had a chance to look at it. I'll just recap for the record here, briefly. I don't understand why we in River Edge have a unique return to play policy as opposed to the state. I do think it's going to suppress participation. I think that as Brian Yandel mentioned, it will, some people will seek other venues. That's going to exclude some members of the community because those other venues are probably more costly, or they might have cut policies which would inhibit participation for developing players, or in the case of having to pay people who can't afford it. I think it's confusing to have a different set of rules than the state. I mean, sure, there are people here who are, let's say, enthusiasts for local matters, but most people just turn on the TV and hear the governor talk about these issues occasionally when there's a change, or just in general. And for River Edge to have its own unique set of rules, I think is, since I don't believe that we have a community that has a unique set of circumstances, is unwise because of the potential confusion and discord cause. I'm concerned about the sports that we share with Oradell, because if I can't say, maybe they have the same rule, but I think it's unlikely, and I would bet Mr. Yandel already checked on this. It's going to cause a hassle. We already have on and off issues between the two towns. We share a school district. I don't think we need to heighten discord here. And, finally, I mean, you're only a kid once. And, I'm very careful, personally, my family is, with this, but we have been allowing our kids to play sports because we feel that the limited risk is worth the helping them preserve as part of their childhood. School is tough enough. I agree with all the rules that the state has in place. I don't dispute them. I just don't think that we should be in the business of making our own rules, having to maintain our own rules. And since we don't have a unique circumstance in town, I think that's it. I think so. My suggestion is we rescind our own unique return to play policy and yield in favor of the state guidelines on this issue. That's it. I talked a long time. Thank you for listening.
No, Artie, Tony, you didn't do it at all, Tony. Thank you, Mr. Artori. Mr. Armentella. No, I'm sorry, Miss Armentella.
It's actually Mr. Armentella, Joe Armentella, 200 Mohawk Drive. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. With the, excuse me, with the abolishment of the COVID committee, I'm just looking for moving forward aspect as director of Regal softball and also as a parent of a child that is on Blackhawks that was recognized at the last mayor and council meeting. To whom should we begin to look for guidance for setting our return to play? Because the COVID return to play policy for the spring was set forth by the COVID committee. And now that COVID committee is abolished, are we back at square one? Are each individual leagues going to be required to set forth their own regulations? And is there going to be consistency across the board? And will there be inclusion of the rec commission involved in that?
I'll address that.
So I'm just going to address that one particular issue before we speak to Mr. Sorellis. The policy remains in force until the council reconsiders it. So even though the committee is no longer active, the council would be active in that. But we'll come back to that in a second because we're going to let Councilman Kanigo address that.
And I'll speak to it in more detail, Joe, so I'll answer your questions.
So Mr. Sorellis?
It's Mr. Searles. Ray
Mr.
Searles.
Searles, all right.
Ray Searles, 23 Kimberly Way. I'm actually late to the call because I'm walking in having coached 12 River Edge girls in Westwood tonight for basketball, because that's currently what we're able to do. I also was a part of the many parents in town that helped volunteer very successful programs in both summer and fall, many of which you all just recognized for their seasons at the last meeting. At that time, we made decisions as an organization. So I thought I was going to have the opportunity tomorrow night to go to the Regal meeting to discuss what was up in the air, I thought, in terms of how we were going to be able to conduct our situation come spring, summer, and fall. So I'm just interested, and I'm sure that's going to be a part of the statement of how that came to be that the town made a decision that they were taking that decision out of our hands as a town. And I certainly feel that that's what's been done, that we had a committee of 3 people making decisions for several thousand and for an awful lot of children in our town. So I don't want to take up more time because a lot of people already said great things, but I'm certainly a concerned citizen about the decisions that have been made.
Michelle, is there anyone else? I saw Rob, but I think Rob wants to talk to another issue.
Yes, that's right.
So no one else on this issue at this point?
Correct.
All right. Council President Kanigo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and let me begin by apologizing because my statement's going to be rather lengthy, but I anticipated much of what was brought up. Tony, I read your email. I read other emails, so I wanted to make sure that we addressed everything. And I'm going to be reading, so if I move too fast, somebody please slow me down. Sometimes you get into the thick of things and start moving fast. So the COVID committee, which we just disbanded, was, as we discussed, comprised of the mayor, myself as council president, Councilwoman Bastide, with advice from the borough administrator, the borough attorney, as well as the head of any department that was affected with whatever particular issue came before it, and was convened to issue guidance on COVID-related matters where it was impractical or impossible for the entire council to convene. With respect to the mask mandate, I want to start by giving a background as to why the COVID committee met in late January and to provide context for the decision that was reached. Before I do, I need to make it clear that this decision, if continued, will be revisited again at every single council meeting until we return to normalcy. It will be listed under old business. Let me repeat, all right? The decision will be revisited by this council at every single meeting of the mayor and council to ensure it continues to be appropriate, legal, and that it continues to achieve the stated goal, the safety and well-being of all residents of River Edge. There is no other goal here. Now, as of January 1st of 2021 in New Jersey, there were a total of 477,360 cases of COVID for the year 2020. As of January 21st, 2021, the day that the COVID committee met, that number rose to 580,688, more than 103,000 new cases in 3 weeks. As of yesterday, there were 722,166 cases in New Jersey. This means that in 5 weeks, there was an increase of 244,640 cases in New Jersey. That's an increase of over 51% in the 5 weeks over the entire year of 2020. For those wondering what changed since last summer when all these sports were going on, that's what changed, the epic proportions of the numbers. As of February 7th, yesterday, 21,989 deaths in New Jersey. Yesterday alone, Super Bowl Sunday, 4,332 new cases were reported in New Jersey. Now, how did we come to this decision? Given the method by which the virus spreads, universal face coverings, even when not clinical level masks, have been an effective mitigation strategy to prevent and control the spread of the disease. This is a statement taken directly from the website of the United States Centers for Disease Control. We started with the guidelines issued by the New Jersey Department of Health, which were recently updated on February 5th of this year. The latest guidance for sports activities are intended to guide organizations that oversee sports activities as they resume operations to ensure the health and safety of staff, participants, and their families. The guidance addressed skill-building drills and team-based practices as described in the CDC guidelines on youth sports. The New Jersey Department of Health guidance incorporates by reference the CDC guidelines, which, to make clear, this committee, the COVID committee, was following and the council is following. Under the New Jersey Department of Health guidelines and the guidance for operations sections, it is stated that the guidelines apply to outdoor and indoor sports and athletic facilities, organizations, businesses, schools, and government entities that operate outdoors and indoor sports facilities, such as athletic fields, courts, and other playing surfaces, among other things, and that these entities should follow the safety measures that are outlined. It is then expressly stated that municipalities retain the discretion to open or close municipal fields or facilities. The DOH doesn't close them. The municipality does if necessary. And this is provided to address those who question under what authority we, the municipality, can make these decisions. Now, the New Jersey Department of Health guidelines speak to the wearing of face masks. They state that during practices, individuals shall remain 6 feet apart from one another whenever possible. This applies to athletes, coaching staff, and referees, as well as parents, guardians, and other spectators to the extent that they are permitted. Currently, under the governor's 25-person limit on gatherings, no such persons are permitted beyond the participants. Second, under the guidelines, face masks are not required, as was mentioned earlier, when persons are engaged in high-intensity aerobic or anaerobic activities, and the guidelines state that the face mask should not be worn when engaged in activities like swimming, or when doing so may endanger the individual's health. Yet the fact that they are not expressly required here in New Jersey doesn't mean that they are not recommended. In fact, the guidance goes on to say that when face masks are not worn, efforts should be made to maintain a distance of at least 6 feet from others. Nowhere in these guidelines does it say that they should not be worn. So then we looked at the CDC guidelines for further guidance, since they were incorporated by reference in the New Jersey.
Tell us, guys, a lawyer.
Excuse me, you're unmuted, and we would expect that everyone be respectful. Go ahead. Go ahead, Council President.
Thank you. So then we looked at the CDC guidelines for further guidance, since they were incorporated by reference in the New Jersey Department of Health guidelines. On the first page of the What You Need to Know section in playing of youth sports, it states that participants should stay at least 6 feet, about 2 arm lengths, from other players when possible, and wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth to help protect yourself and others. In the section entitled Who Should Wear a Mask, the CDC states everyone 2 years of age and older should wear a mask in public settings and when they are around people who do not live in their household. In the section entitled Who Should Not Wear a Mask, it is expressly stated that masks should not be worn by children younger than 2. Anyone who has trouble breathing, anyone who is unconscious, incapacitated, or otherwise unable to remove the mask without assistance. It does not say that athletes who are playing sports are exempt. In the section entitled Consideration for Wearing Masks, it states, wear a mask. When you wear a mask, you protect others as well as yourself. Masks work best when everyone wears one. A mask is not a substitute for social distancing. Masks should still be worn in addition to staying at least 6 feet apart. So what does the CDC say about what should be done if organizations are not able to keep in place safety measures during competition, such as maintaining physical distancing by keeping children at least 6 feet apart at all times? The CDC suggests that we should consider limiting participation to within-team competition only. For example, scrimmages between members of the same team, or team-based practices only. In other words, get rid of games. It's that straightforward. Either social distance and wear a mask, or replace competition with skill building and scrimmages. In the section entitled Consideration for Youth Sports Administrators, regarding masks, the CDC states, masks require the consistent and correct use of masks by making sure staff, athletes, and spectators are covering their noses and mouths. Provide everyone with information on proper use, removal, and wearing of masks prior to the sporting event. Consider having additional masks on hand in case player forgets one or needs to replace a moist mask with a dry one. So the CDC recommends the wearing of masks. The New Jersey Department of Health does not require it, but it does not forbid it. It leaves that decision up to the municipality. Next, we looked at whether masks are required for athletes anywhere else. It turns out that as of today, there are 20 states that mandate the wearing of masks for K through 12th grade athletes during competitions, including outdoor competition. These states are Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oregon, Vermont, New York, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. I will not go over each and every state mandate. I realize my statement is long and I don't want to keep you here until midnight. But as an example, in relevant part, the Pennsylvania mandate requires every individual age 2 or older in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania shall wear a face covering when outdoors with others who are not members of a person's household and unable to maintain sustained physical distance. The guidance specifically addresses outdoor sports. It states coaches, athletes, including cheerleaders and spectators, must wear face coverings if they cannot maintain sustained physical distance from persons outside of their household. This includes while actively engaged in workouts, competitions, and on the sidelines, in the dugout, etc. If sustained 6-foot distancing can be maintained, face coverings may then be removed when outdoors. So the data and the research and the medical opinions are definitely out there. 20 states mandate face coverings in these situations. The other 30s don't expressly require it, but recommend it. So why is everything I've said so far important? Simply because catching COVID may have serious long-term impact on your child's health beyond the obvious possible impact on our families and the community. There are not a lot of studies on the subject, but the ones that are out there should have a chilling effect on all of us. The Mayo Clinic, one of the premier research clinical hospitals in the United States, has the following information on its website relative to the long-term effects of COVID on youth. Regarding the lungs, the type of pneumonia often associated with COVID-19 can cause long-standing damage to the tiny air sacs, the alveoli, in the lungs. The resulting scar tissue can lead to long-term breathing problems. Regarding the brain, even in young people, COVID-19 can cause strokes, seizures, and Guillain-Barré syndrome, a condition that causes temporary paralysis. COVID-19 may also increase the risk of developing Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. Regarding the heart, imaging tests taken months after recovery from COVID-19 have shown lasting damage to the heart muscle, even in people who experienced only mild COVID-19 symptoms. This may increase the risk of heart failure or other heart complications in the future. In a study published last fall in the Journal of American Medical Association, JAMA Cardiology, it was reported that months after recovering from COVID-19, some college athletes showed sign of heart inflammation brought on by a rare condition called myocarditis that may be linked to COVID-19 exposure. When they imaged the hearts of more than 24 Ohio State University players using cardiac magnetic resonance imaging, they found evidence of myocarditis in 15%, while a further 30% had cellular damage or swelling. Myocarditis is a rare condition, normally affecting roughly 22 out of 100,000 people each year. Yet it is a recognized cause of death among competitive athletes, even in the absence of previous heart trouble. 15% is a large number. 45% is an even larger number. So now, what's the downside of wearing masks? That's the next question we ask ourselves. Well, simply put, the downside of wearing masks is mild discomfort during the sporting event. That's it. In a study published in Science Daily, it was found that face masks don't hinder breathing during exercise. The Mayo Clinic website states it is safe to wear a mask while exercising. Yes, it's safe to wear a mask while exercising. New research has shown that your heart rate, respiratory rate, blood pressure, oxygen level, and time of exhaustion are not significantly affected by wearing a mask during moderate to strenuous aerobic physical activity. The Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Sports published an extensive study on the subject. Their conclusion, in healthy subjects, short-term moderate strenuous aerobic physical activity with a mask is feasible, safe, and associated with only minor changes in physiological parameters. The International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health has published a study that found mask wearing appears to have virtually no detrimental effect during vigorous exercise. The New York Times published on November 18, 2020, a review of the subject and the studies, and found that masks do not negatively affect vigorous workouts, whether the mask is cloth, surgical, or an N95 respiratory model. In November 16, 2020, a study published in the Annals of American Thoracic Society, a team of American and Canadian researchers concluded that while sensation of dyspnea, which is labored breathing, might increase, there is little empirical evidence that wearing a face mask significantly diminishes lung function, even when worn during heavy exercise. There might be a perceived greater effort with activity, but the effects of wearing a mask on the work of breathing, on gases like oxygen and CO2 in the blood, or other physiological parameters are small. Today, Bergen County is listed as an extremely high-risk county here in New Jersey. Experts at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and then an organization called Resolve to Save Lives, led by Tom Frieden, former director of the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, developed initiatives of vital strategies to help to curtail the spread. They state that walking, cycling, running, and other outdoor individual workouts are the safest kinds of exercise. Low-contact outdoor sports like singles tennis, skateboarding, and golf may be enjoyed safely. And contact sports like basketball and soccer specifically, they recommend should be avoided entirely. We, the council, do not want to shut down sports, and we want our youth to enjoy an active outdoor spring and summer sports season. But we also want to ensure that we have done everything to protect them and our older residents who may interact with them. And we do so by doing our homework, by reading the latest research, what we have done here, by reading the information, and by relying on facts and medical data instead of conjecture, opinion, and circumstantial evidence that's taken out of context. Again, I reiterate, and please understand this, because I take everything that you all have said very seriously into heart. Okay, we will revisit this bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks, there will be a discussion. There is no hard and fast rule as to when and what will cause us to change the parameters of the directives, which is why we will revisit this at each meeting. Any decision will be made in consultation with the county, state, and federal guidelines and directives, and with our borough health officer. and it will be discussed bi-weekly at our meetings in an open, transparent forum where our residents can offer helpful comments, documentation, and evidence in support of whatever direction they wish the council to consider moving. Please remember that we're doing this to help to stop the spread of COVID. If we are wrong, our kids will be uncomfortable for an hour or two while playing a game. If we are right, we could be helping to prevent the spread of COVID, as well as very serious consequences, including the long-term disastrous physiological effects that could include heart and lung disease or dysfunction, paralysis, and in rare circumstances, even death. I ask you all to just have patience with us. I don't believe that come May, June, we're going to be looking at the same circumstances that we are looking at today. And that is why we're going to revisit all these issues on a bi-weekly basis. And if 2 weeks from now, everybody has vaccines and it looks like COVID is way down, then of course we have more than willing to repeal this. But as of now, I ask you guys for some patience, and I ask my fellow colleagues on the council continued support for this. Thank you.
Okay. Brian, would you like to comment?
Yes, please. First off, I have absolutely no issue with what he said. It's, I know people have had COVID. I know it's a terrible thing. I take safety incredibly seriously. That being said, we are talking about outdoors. We are talking about children being children. We're talking about adults being adults. I would love to see how you're going to govern an adult softball league on a Tuesday night with a center fielder having a mask on. These things can't wait till May or June. People have to make decisions on what they're doing with their children. Are we going to have to join a league? My son's friends are playing high school ball at Riverdale High School indoors. They take their masks off when they play. They put them on when they're on the bench. That is the norm. If this was an indoor thing we were talking about, you know what? I'd have nothing to say. I might not necessarily agree with it, but that's just my personal opinion. This is outdoors. The kids need to be playing.
Brian, I don't want to get into an argument with you. I mean, I understand where you're coming from.
Council President, let him finish.
You know what? Since he doesn't want to get into the argument, I do have a question then, which I'm going to go to, which I really wanted to avoid, but obviously there's no way around it. The COVID committee, did they set the guidelines for the sports leagues in town?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Chinigo, let me be real clear. I have utmost respect for you and everyone on the council. I have no idea why you put up with any of this stuff. How can someone who's setting the guidelines on a committee for sports be setting the guidelines when a member of his household is running one of the sports leagues in town? How is that not a conflict of interest? I don't know if the borough attorney can.
Yeah, no, Brian, that's what we're going to do right now. Mr. Sarlo, would you weigh in on that question?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question.
He's wondering whether Councilman Canigo has a conflict of interest. I don't see one, but
for what? Why would there be a conflict of interest?
Let me address it.
No.
Well, it has to provide context. You're not giving correct context. So,
yeah,
okay.
I'm confused.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my wife is the president of Regal, and Brian understands something, that we have a wall between us. We don't discuss council business or Regal business between us. I've said it publicly before, and there is no interaction with us. I have no idea what Regal does. I don't show up to Regal meetings as a matter of course, and I have the same understanding of what goes on in Regal. I read it on Facebook just as you do, and I make a pointed effort not to ask any questions. That being said, this has nothing to do with Regal. It has everything to do with the COVID committee and the decision that the COVID committee laid out, as I explained just a few minutes ago in my statement. And I realized that it was a long statement and maybe I put some of you to sleep, but it was all explained there. There's absolutely no conflict of interest as I see it, but I'll let Mr. Starlow talk to this issue.
Council President, you were right. That context was important. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Yeah, that's why I asked for some clarification. I didn't know the background of it. So thank you. No, there's no conflict. I mean, there's no personal benefit being gained by Councilman Canigo or his wife in this situation. Because they each have an interest, I don't see any benefit. Now, you have to remember the COVID committee, just to give everyone a little bit of a background, The COVID committee was created at my request when this all started back last March. You have to remember, or recall, I'm sure we all remember, we pretty much shut down the state within days. And executive orders were coming out almost daily at 2 o'clock. And because the executive order was coming out, it was up to the town to enforce that executive order. And we just simply couldn't wait till the next council meeting to put things into place to enforce the executive order, to shut Borough Hall down, to shut parks down, anything that was going on. It was a daily basis of things that were going on. So the COVID committee was, hey, pick 3 people, get them together. So when we can meet and there's an executive order or we need to make a quick decision that cannot wait to the next council meeting, let's do it. And it worked. And it's continued throughout. And now obviously the council is going to revisit it. So this wasn't, just so everyone knows, this wasn't 3 people making the decision for thousands of residents. The answer is yes, they had to make some decisions, but it was things that needed to be done immediately. Emergent situations based on the health, safety, welfare. Now, if the COVID committee wants to put guidelines into place and the mayor and council now want to adopt those, so be it. And it looks like now you're going to revisit it, on the thing. So just a little background, on that. Now, also, just so everyone knows, an executive order that comes from the governor, we're bound by that. We can't do anything about that. So when the governor says outdoor dining or indoor dining now is 35%, that's it. The River Edge can't go to 10%. River Edge can't go to 80%. We're bound by 35% by the executive order. So when the executive order now comes out and says 25 people for outdoor activities, we're bound by that. There's nothing we can do about that. The other thing are guidelines that you were referencing. Now, guidelines, each town's not bound by that. They're just what they are, guidelines. So the towns can adopt them, modify them as they see fit. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of the difference of the guidelines in the executive orders with regard.
Brian or Council President Kanigo?
Yes. Last statement. Let me be clear about something. I have the utmost respect for Councilperson Chinigo. I played softball with him. His wife does a heck of a job, another job I don't know why anyone would want. I just feel when it came to this, we received an email. There was definitely probably an unintentional lack of transparency on this one. Nobody knew about this until an email came out last week. And the guidelines now are tougher in River Edge than they were in the fall. I understand the numbers. I get it. Hopefully we've turned a corner. I've had my 2 vaccines. Hopefully we're turning a corner on this. But again, I want to see the kids out there playing. I'm seeing it at the high school. You go down to it when there's not 12 inches of snow on the ground. You see it down in the parks. These kids are playing. They're playing without masks, whether people like it or not. This can be governed, within these leagues a lot better than these kids just going into a park and having 30 kids in there.
That's what we're counting on, Brian, that the leagues are going to self-enforce it and it's going to be on the honor system. We're not going to be sending police officers to arrest anybody or to break up games or anything of the sort. We're asking for people to use common sense and, where necessary, wear these masks. You brought up the fact how you're going to enforce somebody on a Tuesday night in the outfield at a men's softball game. We're not going to enforce it. And frankly, there's probably no reason for somebody to be wearing that mask while they're actually playing, but they should have it with them so that when they jog back to the bench, they can put that mask on and sit next to their buddies on the bench wearing a mask. So it's just that simple. We realize that this is something that seems onerous at this time. But again, those numbers speak for themselves. And I can only promise you all that this will all be revisited at the next meeting and the meeting after. And I'm not paying you guys lip service. And as far as, my wife being the president of Regal, yes, she is. She's been president for a couple of years. She's been involved as vice president for 10 years. And she's done a terrific job, in my opinion, as has the entire board, including Joe on this board, Joe Armental, and everybody else. I mean, you guys have done a fantastic job. And I think the sports organizations in town are amazing altogether. I'm asking for a little bit of patience here. Let's let these numbers start reducing. Let's let the vaccines start being distributed and taking effect. Let's use common sense when we're together and wear these masks, because I am just as sick as everybody else of being in quarantine, of having to wear a mask when I see a friend and having to stay 6 feet away from them and be worried about things just like everybody else is. So, you know, let's beat COVID, and we start at the municipal level, and then we move up to the county and the state and hopefully the federal level. And we'll be able to maybe even by the summer be able to all, you know, get together, share a beer, and a parade down Bogart Road and Continental Ave for 4th of July. But if we don't take extreme measures at this point, and I don't even think that wearing masks is that extreme a measure, but if we don't, we're going to be having this conversation again in October and next January, and it's going to continue. And we got to put a stop to it. So, you know, give us a chance to do the right thing, which I think we're doing here. And I promise you, I don't think anybody here is going to be disappointed in the end result.
Okay, Brian, I'll give you another opportunity, and then I'll call on some of the other persons who had spoken previously.
No, I appreciate it. And believe me, you know, I might get ticked off about something, but I do respect all the work everyone's doing. It's just, it's an incredibly frustrating time.
It is for everybody, Brian.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Lauren?
She wanted to talk about the other issue, I think.
Yes, but I didn't know if she wanted to comment on this.
No, sorry, just the Board of Health issue. Yeah, Board of Health.
Tony?
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of comments. You know, I listened to all that Council President Kinigo had to say. You know, I think that everybody's coming to this pretty well informed. I mean, I missed the Scandinavian Center for Sports study, but I've read through all these guidelines. That's the problem is I can't read Norwegian, but
it's in English.
regardless,
The study's in English.
Yeah, yes, I realized when I said that they speak better English than me.
You and me both.
You know, look, so I think we all know these things. I do still want to say I do not understand why River Edge merits a unique approach within the state. I appreciate the concern. You know, as a voter, I look forward to seeing what the Border Council does when they consider this issue in 2 weeks now that the governance of this has changed. So we'll all stay tuned and see what people do. Thanks.
Thanks, Tony. Oh, looks like the mayor disappeared.
Oh,
Let's give him a second. He'll sign back on.
okay.
Stephanie, he's still physically in front of you, right? Okay, good. We can't hear you though. You're muted. I'm guessing my long-winded speech knocked your power out.
Oh,
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, I'm sorry, my device went dead. Tony, I don't know if you're done or not. Is Tony done?
I think he was done, yes.
All right, then. I'm changing the view so I can see a little bit better. I apologize for this. The clerk has stepped away for a moment to get a mask so that we can continue from her computer. I believe, Mr. Armentella, did you wish to comment or make a statement?
Yes, thank you, President Chinigo. I appreciate all their input, and please don't. I hope no one takes it personal in the sense that anyone believes that there's negligence. I think everyone in this town has their heart in the right spot, and they want to keep the safety of the kids and the volunteers as well, because we all know that, you know, all the studies that we've read, that they're more susceptible to serious conditions with respects to COVID. And I don't think that that's, you know, negligence on anyone's behalf with respects to the mandates. However, moving forward, I do implore the mayor and the council to include the heads of the leagues to be a part of it, because, you know, the regulations, it shouldn't be a one size fits all approach to the return to play, because the regulations put forth for soccer or basketball may look different than softball. And that we should look at individual sports. And if you don't have the voices of the people that are in the fight and are in the trenches dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, it does seem, and I believe one of my fellow residents used the word unintended lack of transparency. And that's the message that it relays back to the community. So with having a voice, I think it would go a long way with the residents of the community to be able to say, this is what we believe.
Joe, I take full responsibility for that. So I will ask the council if it's okay by everybody, if we can invite the heads of all the leagues to the next meeting so that we can discuss this with them at the time.
Is there objection? If there's no objection, it is so moved. Is there objection?
No, Mayor.
None, it is so moved.
Mayor, I would also like to make a comment. I just wanted to mention, I believe the Rec Commission will be having a meeting between now and the next meeting. And in that time, I hope we can get them to weigh in, as well as all the heads of the league and other stakeholders, as well as our health officer. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea, Councilman.
Okay, Mr. Armentella, is there something more you would like to say?
No, I just appreciate the time, and thank you everyone for your hard work. And Dario, I don't envy you, even though I've read all of those, many of the same websites that you read to put that together. I definitely don't envy you having to present it to a full community. So you did a good job, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armentella. Mr. Sorellis,
Yes. No,
would you like to comment?
No, at this point, again, I think that, what we're talking about in terms of including it under old business for future meetings certainly, seems reasonable. So something that we can continue to revisit in the upcoming meetings. Appreciate it.
All right, and we will keep that promise. It will be part. Ms. Appertella, would you make sure it's a written part of our agenda, so that when the agenda goes out, it's very clear that it's old business that we will review. And Ms. Evans, would you do the same? Thanks. Okay, so we are now, I know that Mr. Beringer and Ms. Lauren, I don't know how to say your last name again.
Default. It's a tricky
Default.
one.
So I'm going to recognize you first, Ms. Default. Please feel free to speak.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, this is just going back to what Sebastian raised earlier, and just to give a little bit more context and where some of the parents are coming from. So currently and I'm sure everyone's aware on these meetings, there's a pandemic response team for both Cherry Hill and Roosevelt. And we have been, those team meetings are starting to be published, and the minutes, with them, which is very helpful. But what we're not getting, and I think the driver, at least as to why I am here and why others are here tonight, is that we're really still not getting clarity in the next steps. And a next step that we see from our Board of Ed and Dr. Bendov, who I know is leaving at the end of this month, but all the same, why we need more assistance here in terms of guidance, is that phase 3, which is getting grades 2 through 6 into expanded in-person learning, is going to be based on guidance from the public health nurse, Arlene Fustani. So, okay, we looked, Arlene up, and here she is listed under the River Edge website, which is why we're coming to you. Yeah. So listening, so the guidance that we got from Dr. Bendov verbally, to be clear, which is also, I think, why we're having to circle here, is that to get to phase 3, for 2 to 6 to be in person more than 2 days a week in school for 4 hours, we need to be at a phase yellow, and we need to maintain that phase yellow for 3 weeks. That is the guidance from the public health nurse that she said verbally on the last Board of Ed meeting. The challenge that we have there is when we question, okay, well, why is that? What jurisdiction does the public health nurse have in terms of managing our Board of Ed? They said, well, that's the guidance that she's given, and so that is what we're following. The frustration is from our end there is that it seems like we can't, almost like get in touch with Arlene. It seems like there's no one to really speak to there. When we go to our Board of Ed, when we go to our
Let me actually interrupt you for a second. I've had several conversations with the superintendent on this, and the superintendent cannot have it both ways. I'm sorry.
She's doing it, and that's where we need your
solely
assistance.
responsible for what she and the Board of Education are solely responsible whether you open or you don't. Period.
Mayor, I agree with you.
The nurse
Our frustration is that
the nurse, Arlene has said this to the superintendent. Sam Yakovich, our health officer, said this to the superintendent. I have said this to the superintendent. So the superintendent has gotten some guidance, some recommendations from the state, from the county superintendent that they should follow the recommendations of the health officer. The recommendation of the health officer is not binding upon them. It is not.
I agree.
Superintendent wants us to believe that it is. It is not. And I can tell you that as a public school teacher, my wife is a public school teacher. I am on the executive committee for Bergen County Education Association. Every superintendent is listening to the health advice, the health recommendation, and then making an informed decision based on their school district. Period. I know what the superintendent's telling you, and I've had a Zoom with her where I've said exactly what I just said to you. Superintendent, you may say that you have no choice, but that isn't true.
I mean, what do we do with that? So I agree with you, and thank you very much for affirming that. Our problem is we're kind of chasing our tail a bit in terms of joining Zooms and hearing this, right? From yourself and then back to her, and it's like a ping pong game for us. Where if we could get it in writing, or even on the last Board of Ed meeting, we said, can Mrs. Pisani please join this Board of Ed meeting then to give us clarity, to help us out here? And the response from the superintendent was, she's too busy. And to hear that when we're trying to get our kids in school it's really devastating, to be honest. It's insulting and devastating. And I expect a lot more from this town from that. Really upsetting.
Well, Arlene is not too busy, but I'm not going to allow her to be used by the superintendent anymore. The superintendent is making this decision, not Arlene, not Sam Yankovic, period. If the superintendent says differently,
put that in writing?
You have it
for
right
us?
here. This is going to go on YouTube.
Great.
This is not, as Mr. Sarla will say, and I'll ask him to say it again, we don't have any authority over the BOE. The BOE makes its decision. Mr. Sarla, could you just reaffirm that?
Agreed, Mayor. Again, agreed. You have no jurisdiction over the Board of Education, when they open, when they close. They're a separate entity. They're voting, the Board of Education members are voted in. The superintendent with the Board of Education makes those decisions. It can be frustrating, but this council has no jurisdiction over Board of Education matters.
And neither does our health officer or our borough nurse.
They have absolutely no jurisdiction or authority to mandate or compel the opening or closing of the school. They can recommend it. Just as they can recommend to the mayor to close Borough Hall, but the ultimate decision would be the mayor and council to do that.
I mean, I think maybe then what we're getting a bit lost on.
Mayor, I would.
And yeah, sorry, I do hear background noise as well. What we're getting a bit hung up on, and maybe, Mr. Solaro would appreciate your advice here, is the word recommendation.
I think that's a pretty clear word. And let me clarify a little bit more, because I've had so many conversations with our borough health officer and our borough nurse about this. There are guidelines that are set up by the state and the county health department that says when a region, not a town, or a town, either way, are in a certain zone, they are to inform the school, the Board of Education, and superintendent that we are in this zone, period. And what are the recommendations? And they essentially are just rereading what the state and county recommendations are. What you guys are doing, in my opinion, is falling for the superintendent and the board not taking responsibility for their decisions. We, the mayor and council, take responsibility for our decisions. We say we voted for this or we didn't vote for this. You guys all complimented us, and especially our council president, for saying very clearly why we made decisions about the rec. I would call on the superintendent and the Board of Education to do likewise. This is not our issue. We cannot enter into it. We have no authority. For them to claim that we do is disingenuous at best.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, which is why we're here, because just to be clear, we have been on Board of Ed meetings for the past few months, and this is the circling we're getting. So I don't know if any other parents are on who want to state this. I mean, I guess what I'm hearing from you then is our next point of action is like legal action, because I don't know what to do anymore, and it's frustrating because we're handing over tax dollars.
To you any actions.
I know.
I can simply
realize
tell
that.
you that we are doing what we're supposed to do, and that does not include making decisions for the Board of Education or the superintendent.
I thank you for affirming that, and that's why we're here tonight.
Mayor, could I chime in?
Sure, Councilman, go ahead.
I would just like to reiterate, I spoke to the health officer today, and he has no jurisdiction on what the superintendent does as far as opening or closing schools. He doesn't have the power, just like we as a mayor and council don't have any jurisdiction over the schools. And anything you hear to the contrary is incorrect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I guess having this on YouTube will be helpful. I think having it in writing would be very helpful as well, because it's really frustrating as a parent.
Because we have no jurisdiction. We're not going to enter into an issue between the residents of River Edge and the independent municipal body of the Board of Education. They should stand up for their decisions like we stand up for our decisions.
Agree. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Rob, you're next. Oh, hold on, Lauren. If you're still there, would you please state your full name and address for the record?
Sure. Lauren Default, and it's 159 Greenway Terrace.
Thank you. Rob, if you'd like to speak or pass, that's up to you. But if you're going to speak, please say your first full name and your address.
Yeah, good evening. Rob Berninger, 205 Madison Avenue.
Well recognized.
Thank you. So kind of related to this, but this is from a previous meeting where we were discussing the agreement or negotiation with the Board of Education of the use of Roosevelt Field. Council President Canigo made a mention about it's a different meeting down the street that we would want to take up this issue with. So my question is, how can, before I attend one of those meetings where that Board of Education seems to be a group that many residents in this town need to start speaking to and paying attention to, including that's the superintendent and the replacement of the superintendent. How do I get a copy of the details of the discussion? What concessions were agreed upon and what concessions were not agreed upon between the mayor and council and the Board of Education?
Mr. Sarlo, could you speak to that a little bit? What would, we didn't take notes during any of these meetings. I don't know what would be under Oprah or not.
I'm not following these meetings. What meetings are we talking about? Were these joint meetings between the borough, the
Correct.
board and the mayor and council?
Correct.
This was mostly negotiations between myself and the superintendent in good faith with the council.
Sure. So, I mean, obviously, if it was a published meeting, then there would be a record of the meeting, and a published meeting would be if you know, you had more than 3 members of the mayor and council, and they had more than 3 members of the Board of Education present. If you had 3 members and they only had 3 members, you did not have a quorum. So therefore, it wasn't a formal meeting where a transcript and notes would be taken. Obviously, anything done or memorialized would be in an agreement, a shared service agreement or a use agreement. I don't think we're there yet, right? I don't think I've been tasked with.
No, the only thing we did was we did the snow removal. That was going to be a part of the agreement, and so which has I think is Lizette, Miss Appertella has that portion of the negotiation been memorialized, and I believe it has. I think this council voted on it, and I think we sent it to the BOE.
It was sent, I sent it to the business administrator at the Board of Education. I asked for confirmation if it would be posted on their next meeting agenda. I haven't heard back.
So for the field use, I don't believe you're at that point where it's been finalized.
No, it's not. So let me answer a little bit Rob's question, because you're correct, Mr. Sarlo. It was not a full council meeting, full Board of Education meeting. It was only a couple of members of the council and a couple of members of the board. There was the business administrator. There was DPW superintendent, if I recall correctly. Yes. There was the head of grounds for the schools was present. The mayor was present. The superintendent of schools was present. The business administrators, if I haven't said that already. And it was not a formal meeting. It was a meeting where we basically begged, and we feel everybody's frustration and how they're being dealt with by the Board of Education. And it's something that I intimated last time, but I guess with everything that's been said here tonight, I should just be a little stronger about it. We almost basically begged the Board of Education to allow us to build up the Roosevelt Fields for our girls in a manner similar to the Memorial Fields and the fields that the boys have. And they would not budge. They were fine with us improving the irrigation and building nicer playing fields and dugouts, but they would absolutely not budge on one of the important things to the girls' sports, which was a food stand somewhere that the girls could sell Gatorades and wrapped candy bars. We didn't ask them to do hot foods or prepared foods or anything of the sort, and they absolutely refused. We tried to find out why they refused. There was a comment made about the school would then be overrun by rats or something of the sort, which is just absolutely ridiculous. We know that we don't have rats overrunning the memorial fields, the Little League fields, and certainly our DPW has done an exceptional job maintaining fields and public spaces in town. And if we were to do something with the Roosevelt Fields, the same would hold true. We told them that. We guaranteed that the DPW would be taking care of these fields. They wouldn't have to worry about it, and they refused to move any further on that.
Councilman Finigo, I want to interrupt you for a second. We even went so far to explore if we didn't serve before we early on in the conversation, could we just use it to store goods and sell it on a table right in front of the building? And they said no. And then we said, so you're saying absolutely nothing? And they said, well, you can sell it from a table, but you have to bring the table and all the goods there and then take it away every single time, and you can't keep anything in the building. It was, and when I pressed them for a substantive reason, they didn't give us one. But go ahead, Councilman Finigo.
No, I mean, that's it. We tried everything, and we were willing to invest significant money to improve those fields and do something there. and they refused to do so. We were putting ourselves out there beyond what we should have, really as a town, but we were trying to make it work. And I'm not going to say that it was bad faith because I don't want to go that far, but certainly they didn't meet us even quarter of a way, let alone halfway. And, I'm not trying to beat up on the Board of Ed. I know that, we've been undergoing through a very difficult time over the past year, and I'm sure that they're trying their best, even though many people who are watching right now maybe don't agree with it. But certainly there are issues with transparency, with reaching people, and with accountability, as the mayor has said now a couple of times. We have no problem inviting you to these meetings, talking to you, discussing and debating things and listening to your opinions. We have no illusions that we're somehow smarter than you are because we have been elected to office. We take our public responsibility very seriously, and we welcome all of the public comments, and we try to accommodate and listen and do what's best with everybody in mind. And sometimes it's impossible to please all people. But there have been issues with the Board of Education from as far as from the very beginning. I was school liaison to the Board of Education. And when I used to attend meetings, they wouldn't even recognize me as being there. Would not look at me, would not talk to me. And standoffish is the word that comes to mind with their dealings with me. And after about a year of appearing at these meetings, and being ignored, I just basically stopped appearing, and the council decided that there was no reason for a liaison anymore because the school board was just not interested in dealing with us at all. And then when we went to try to get these fields resolutions done, we capitulated in every way possible. We had talked about just installing a very simple pitching cage. And then they started making demands that there had to be concrete laid down, so we capitulated there. And then they made demands that the pitching cages would have to be surrounded by fencing that was locked, because they said that kids in town would just wreck the pitching cages. We capitulated there, and we kept capitulating and capitulating. And they kept throwing out roadblocks until finally it came to the one that we couldn't say okay, because then it wouldn't have been much more than what is there currently, except for maybe some slightly better irrigation. So, we've decided to move on to reconfiguring KBG. And as I've stated earlier, I think that is the brightest thing that we can do. We can put money into the fields that are owned and maintained by the borough. We can have all the stakeholders, including you, Rob, as a member of the Little League board, and everybody else, adult softball, and so forth and so on. Everybody's going to have their opinion listened to and is going to be able to give input. And our dealings in this matter, as they have been in every other matter, are going to continue to be transparent so that everybody knows what's going on and everybody can be heard.
Thank you, Dario. I would just like to, that kind of just lets me know where we need to go next. And I think the leagues in town, the school children in town, we need to make them aware of the wall we're up against with the Board of Education. I find it, if those were some of their reasons, I would have hoped that they would have talked to some of the other leagues in town just to maybe ask Little League about their stand, ask us about our batting cages,
Every more.
No issues, right? There's no issues down there. There's no issues down at KBG.
Rob, we brought that up to them. We said that. In the meeting, we said, we don't understand this. What are you talking about? There's not rats running all over the place at KGB. It's all clean and taken care of. There's no problem with the pitching cages that are out there year round. They're used when they need to be used, and then they're there for people to enjoy if they need them. I mean, parents can just go down there and use them with their kids. We don't have to lock these things up. That's not what River Edge is about. And all we got was kind of shakes of the head, and we'll take a look, send us what you think that we should do. And then it got just rejected, and the mayor had those conversations.
We also said we would build it according to their timetable.
Yep.
That if they wanted us to build it in August, we would build it in August. They want us to build it in July, we'll build it in July. They want us to break it At one point, they said, well, we want you to do one side of the field and then do the other side of the field. And we said yes to that too. We wanted to invest several $100,000 in improving that field, which would not come out of the BOE's budget at all. And we had very few demands. We said yes to everything they asked, and they wouldn't budge.
Okay, I appreciate it.
And just to let you know, originally when we started these, and it started really when I first came on the council, we were asking them to contribute half because we said we're going to improve your facilities, so contribute half the money. And that was a non-starter. Absolutely not. So then we went to, well, just contribute a little bit, you know, and absolutely not. And then finally we said, okay, then we'll just pay for the whole thing and we'll do it. And then they started putting up roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And every time we said yes, something else came up. And that's what dealing with the Board of Education from this side is. So I understand the parents' frustrations.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Rob.
right, Rob. Thank you. Mr. Millens.
Hi, John Milnes, 410 Mercer Ave.
You are recognized.
Thank you. And I may be late to the party, but just to go back to that, the COVID question would really be when it comes to Riverdale sports, when it comes to football, lacrosse, soccer, that cross between Oradell and River Edge, since as of right now, as far as I know, Oradell does not have the same guidelines that River Edge is proposing with this, with the mask. So I'm just trying to see how would that be handled? Is it sports that would be played in River Edge? Or how would that be handled?
John, I think the easiest answer is this. We're going to revisit this particular issue specifically at the next meeting. Because in thinking about it as well, I tend to agree that lacrosse and football specifically, in the way they have certain requirements with equipment, namely mouth guards and helmets, may need a slightly different method of dealing with certain things than other sports. So, you know, that's part of it. I don't know if you heard, but, you know, we have promised that this is going to be revisited at every single meeting until we can get rid of all mandates needing meaning with respect to masks. So next meeting, we're going to revisit it. And I would ask you, because what we did was we talked about asking all the heads of the sport leagues in town. So you as one of the heads, I believe you're still Riverdale football, right?
Actually, I just stepped down. It's I'm in my transition out, but yes, I'm still involved with the program, but there is a new president coming in.
Okay, whether it's you or is it Koth? Is he the new president?
It is.
All right, so whether you or Koth are both come to the next meeting and we can discuss it in more detail at that point.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other resident, Councilwoman Kaufman, that would like to speak at this time? Michelle, you're
Michelle.
Sorry about that. If anyone else has a question, raise your hand and I'll call on you. I don't see anyone with a question right now, though.
All right, then.
I think we're done. Yeah.
All right, so could I have a motion, Councilwoman Bastide and Councilwoman Kinsella, to close to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Council President Kanigo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Bastide.
Yes.
Councilman Gaudier.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kaufman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen.
Sorry, yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella.
Yes.
Okay, we're at the point for council comments. Let's start with, we'll start in the upper left-hand corner. It's like, go ahead, Councilwoman Kaufman.
I just would want to remind everyone to stay safe and be well.
All right. Council President Kanigo.
I've said enough tonight. Thank you. Oh, congratulations to the kids who came today, and I loved hearing about the project of the Girl Scouts. Thank you for that.
Excellent. Councilwoman Kinsella.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to thank Caitlin Tishman and Claire Versteed and for their project. It sounds like it's going to be great for the town, and I can't believe they're going to be walking around in this weather doing that. So I'm glad that they're doing it and not me. And also congrats to the 11 under championship team. Thank you.
Councilwoman Basteed.
Thank you. I just would like to mention there will be notice going out from the Cultural Affairs Committee regarding a Black History Month presentation on Monday, February 15th. It's going to be a presentation regarding, I can't open it and read it now. The origins of African dance. It's to be a live presentation, a virtual presentation on Monday the 15th at 5 o'clock, and you'll be getting emails about it. It'll be posted on the website. And there also will be a display at the library in celebration of Black History Month as well. Those are my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Excellent. Councilwoman Montesano Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just first to congratulate the Little League U11 team champions. They did a great job. Good luck to the Girl Scouts in their project. I really look forward to their findings. And lastly, while I agree with the new regulations on the leagues and everything that has been said from Councilman Kinigo to help mitigate the spread of the virus, I also am happy and hopeful that those being reviewed on a bi-weekly basis will continue this productive dialogue with the community. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Gaudier.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last meeting, we've had several storms, and throughout each of those storms, the DPW has been working basically for 3 days straight for each of them. Through those storms, they have plowed roads and our parking lots and our parks, as well as shoveled borough property, and they have continued to do a wonderful job for the residents of River Edge, and I'd like to thank them. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. I too would like to echo the monumental work that the DPW always does for our snowstorms. And in our last snowstorm, they were down 2 vehicles, and still they found a way to do a great job. They are really, in so many ways, unsung heroes. And so we'd like to sing their song now and offer them our heartfelt thanks. All right, everyone, could I have a motion to close?
So moved.
And a second. Council President Kinigo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Basteed.
Yes.
Councilman Gaudier. Councilwoman
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella.
Yes.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Everyone. Thank you.